Welcome to our channel, where every story reveals a hidden truth. Today, you're about to hear a powerful tale of deception, identity, and resilience, where one woman fights to reclaim her name and future in a world that tried to silence her. If you enjoy dramatic, emotional stories with powerful messages, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Now, sit back and get ready for the imposter's throne. Dormitory number 4, Westchester University, New York. 10:37 p.m. A warm desk lamp casts soft light across the open IELTS workbook. Elena Morgan gripped her highlighter, drawing a careful line beneath a phrase on academic vocabulary. Outside, rain tapped gently against the window pane, a soft rhythm in the quiet night. She sat motionless, her right hand wrapped around a cooling mug of cocoa, her mind immersed in study. Elena never considered herself special. Her mother, Laura Heiress, was a brilliant attorney who had long stepped away from corporate life. They lived modestly, quietly, and far from the spotlight. Elena never bragged about her father, William Morgan, the powerful founder and CEO of Morgan Group, one of America's leading investment and real estate empires. For 22 years, he had never publicly acknowledged her. All Elena had ever received from her father were scholarships issued through charitable foundations and the occasional gift delivered through his lawyer. She was used to living like any other student, disciplined, humble, invisible. Until tonight. Ping. Her phone buzzed softly. You were tagged in a message from the Westchester Law Group chat. Elena swiped her screen. The message was from Professor Catherine Bell, head of the law department. Westchester University is honored to thank Morgan Group for its generous $3 million donation toward our new library. Special thanks to student Elena Morgan, daughter of Mr. William Morgan, for her role in connecting the university with our benefactor. Elena froze. She reread the message 3 times, making sure she wasn't hallucinating. Her father had just publicly donated to the school, and for the first time ever, he acknowledged her as his daughter in an official, public way. A strange warmth stirred inside her. Confusion, yes, but also something deeper. Maybe even joy. This was the moment she had long given up on hoping for. She hesitated, then decided to respond with something polite in the chat. Not too personal. Thank you, Professor. I'm grateful to be part of this community. It's an honor to study here. The message sent. Within seconds, the group exploded. Wait, Elena is the William Morgan's daughter? No way. She's always so quiet and studious. I never would have guessed. Morgan Group built the new library? That's insane. Talk about humble royalty. She's basically law school's secret princess. Elena blushed. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, but the messages were kind, admiring. She felt seen in a good way, but that didn't last long. A new message appeared from a user named at vdale98 with a winking white cat as the profile photo. A voice memo played, loud and accusatory. Seriously? You think it's okay to just claim someone like William Morgan as your father? How shameless can you be? Who even are you? Because the real daughter is right here. The chat went silent. Seconds later, at vdale98 sent a series of photos. In one, a beautiful blonde girl wrapped her arm around a tall, distinguished man in a gray suit. He smiled gently, comfortably. The man was unmistakable. It was William Morgan, Elena's father. And the girl beside him? Vanessa Dale, a fellow senior, known across campus for her stunning looks, flashy lifestyle, and curated social media full of designer outfits and luxury getaways. The chat exploded again, but this time, not with admiration. Wait, now I'm confused. Who's his actual daughter? Different last names. Elena might have lied. Vanessa definitely looks like the daughter of a billionaire. Is this some rich family drama unfolding at our school? Some voices try to reason. Maybe Mr. Morgan has 2 daughters? Or maybe Elena uses her mom's surname? But the majority had already chosen sides. Then came a final blow. Vanessa uploaded a screen recording. A FaceTime call with William Morgan himself. Hi, Daddy, miss you. Miss you too, sweetheart. he replied with a warm smile. Elena's heart dropped. That voice, that face, there was no denying it. Her father, speaking so tenderly to someone else, letting her call him daddy, smiling. Her phone kept buzzing. She couldn't read anymore. She unplugged her earbuds, packed her notes, and quietly slipped out of the library. The hallway was dark, dimly lit by exit signs and reflections of the rainy night. A chill ran down her spine, not from the cold, but from a storm of doubt building inside her. The next morning, as Elena stepped into the lecture hall, the atmosphere was already different. The way people looked at her had changed. Some classmates whispered under their breath. Others stared, then quickly looked away, as if she was something that didn't belong there. She walked to her seat, heart heavy. A new message sat in her university inbox. Dear Elena, I'd like to see you in the department office after class today. There are some matters we need to clarify. Regards, Professor Catherine Bell, asterisk, Elena Sigid. She had already sensed what was coming. Throughout the lecture, she kept her composure, taking notes as usual, ignoring the stares from people who had smiled at her just yesterday. But inside, she was churning. Every glance at the board brought back the image from that video. William Morgan's familiar face smiling at Vanessa, calling her sweetheart. He had never called Elena that. Not once in her life. 3 p.m., department office. Professor Bell sat straight behind her oak desk, her expression much colder than usual. Next to her sat a man in a gray suit wearing a badge that read, School Media Advisor. Elena didn't recognize him. Elena, please have a seat, said Professor Bell, flipping through a folder on her desk. I'll be direct. We won't waste time. Elena nodded and sat, bracing herself. There's a serious discrepancy regarding your identity, the professor continued. You publicly claim to be the daughter of William Morgan. But, as you've seen, another student, Vanessa Dale, has provided photographic and video evidence that she is, in fact, his daughter. She paused, watching Elena's reaction. Elena clenched her hands in her lap. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but she didn't want to explain her life to people who'd already decided she was lying. Professor, I never made any public claim, she said calmly. You're the one who mentioned my name in the student group. I responded politely. And yes, William Morgan is my biological father. The media advisor cut in, voice cool and clinical. That's the problem. No one knows this connection. There are no public records. No official acknowledgement. Meanwhile, Vanessa. He turned his tablet around, showing a photo of Vanessa and William Morgan at a charity event 2 months ago, smiling like a father and daughter. She has appeared with him on multiple occasions, not just in the video last night. Professor Bell added, Elena, I understand that family matters can be complicated, but the school cannot allow misleading information to circulate. Unless you can provide legal proof of your relationship, we'll have to temporarily remove your name from the list of honor graduates. Elena felt as if the floor dropped from under her. Temporarily remove me? She asked. This is not a punishment, Professor Bell replied. It's to protect the school's reputation. If you can verify your claim later, your honors will be reinstated. And if I can't, Professor Bell's voice turned cold. Then the university may consider disciplinary action for impersonating a public figure's family. Elena walked out of the office with frozen hands. Impersonating? She, William Morgan's biological daughter, was being accused of impersonation? She walked quickly back to her dorm, avoiding every curious glance along the way. Her thoughts raced. Why hadn't her father spoken up? Why had he let Vanessa call herself his daughter and said nothing? Back in her room, she locked the door, grabbed her phone, and scrolled to his number. It was the private line they only used in emergencies. She took a shaky breath and pressed call. Ring, ring. No answer. She tried again. Still nothing. She placed the phone on the table, her hands trembling. For the first time in her life, Elena felt truly alone in the city that had once felt like her second home. That night, the student group chat exploded again. Vanessa continued to dominate the spotlight. She posted another video, this time taken at the Morgan estate. The very same mansion Elena had visited as a child to see her father, now being flaunted as evidence of Vanessa's rightful place. She showed herself walking through the marble foyer, posing beside William Morgan's portrait and wearing a necklace with the initials VIM, a piece Elena had seen once in her father's office but had never received. Because he had kept her hidden. Always. Elena saw it clearly now. Vanessa was methodically stealing her place at the university, in the public eye, and maybe even in her father's heart. But if Vanessa was a fake, why wasn't William Morgan saying anything? His silence was the sharpest wound of all. Elena sat in the dark, the glow of the city outside her window casting long shadows across the floor. She stared at her phone, thoughts spinning like a storm. Could it be that even my own father believes the lie? That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She lay in her small dorm room, the glow of streetlights filtering through the curtains, painting streaks of gold and shadow across the ceiling. Every message from her classmates, every whisper of gossip, her professor's cold dismissal, and especially the FaceTime video of Vanessa with her father, replayed over and over in her mind. Elena had never felt the need for her mother as much as she did now. By 7 a.m. the next morning, she caught the earliest train out of the city to New Rochelle, a quiet seaside town where her mother, Laura Heiress, lived in a modest brick house. She didn't call ahead. When Laura opened the door, surprised, she took one look at Elena's pale face and instantly knew something was wrong. "Elena, what happened?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Elena didn't answer right away. She sat down on the old living room sofa, silent for a long moment. Then finally, she said, "Mom, I need the truth. About Dad." Laura sat across from her, thoughtful. It was as if she'd been waiting for this moment all along. "You've asked before why you carry my last name and not Morgan's," Laura began softly. "Elena, you're the legal daughter of William Morgan and me. We were married when we were young, before your father had anything more than some startup plans and a dream about building Morgan Group. In the beginning, we were happy. But as the company grew, so did the pressure, and eventually another woman came along. I thought I could keep the marriage together," she continued. "But eventually, I realized forcing it would only destroy us both. So I asked for a divorce and full custody of you." William agreed, but under one condition. She paused, emotion rising in her throat. "That your identity would be kept secret. He said the world of wealth and power was ruthless. A child like you would be a target. For the media, for manipulators. He said he wanted to protect you." Elena sat frozen. "And you agreed to that?" Laura nodded. "I wanted you to have a peaceful childhood. No tabloids. No chaos. I never imagined it would come to this." Elena took a deep breath. "What about Vanessa?" Laura's expression sharpened. "Vanessa Dale. I remember that name. Her mother once tried to sue William for emotional damage years after our divorce. I believe it was settled privately, quietly. I had no idea she was back." "Elena," she added, "do you think someone is backing her?" Elena nodded slowly. "She has pictures, videos. Someone coached her to approach the school exactly the way she did. This isn't just vanity, it's strategic. But what scares me most is Dad hasn't said a word." Laura stood and walked into her study. Moments later, she returned with a small wooden box. Inside were legal documents, a few handwritten letters, and, most importantly, a certified birth certificate listing William Morgan as Elena's father, signed and sealed. "If you're going to fight back," Laura said, placing it in her hands, "this is what you'll need." That afternoon, Elena went to see Angela Rowe, William Morgan's longtime senior assistant, and one of the few people in his inner circle whom Elena trusted. Angela worked at the Morgan Group headquarters on the 39th floor of a glass tower in Midtown Manhattan. Angela greeted her with surprise and caution. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered as she ushered Elena into her office. "The company's under pressure right now. William is overwhelmed, and Victor Lang is running the show." "Victor Lang?" Elena asked. Angela nodded. "The new executive assistant. He rose quickly these past 2 years. William trusted him completely. But ever since Vanessa showed up, things haven't felt right." Elena looked her in the eye. "Does my father really believe that Vanessa is his daughter?" Angela was silent. Then, carefully, she said, "No, William knows the truth. But Vanessa is blackmailing him. Elena, that FaceTime video, it's fake. They used deepfake software. Real footage, yes, but the voice and facial expressions were digitally manipulated. William saw it, but Victor convinced him that denying it publicly would trigger the release of more private material. Things involving your mother and their past that William doesn't want unearthed. Elena stared at her, stunned. The pieces began falling into place. Vanessa wasn't acting alone. She was the face. But the real architect was Victor Lang. On the subway ride home, Elena sat quietly with a file in her lap. Her original birth certificate and a confidential email Angela had risked her job to send. It included a chain of messages between Victor and the school's media consultant. One sentence stood out: keep William quiet until after the graduation ceremony. After that, we can legitimize everything. Now she understood. This wasn't about school reputation. They wanted her title. They wanted her legacy. They wanted the company itself. But they had made one crucial mistake. They underestimated her. The first thing Elena did the next morning was print out everything. Her original birth certificate, the chain of emails from Victor Lang, the timestamped security footage from Angela showing Vanessa entering the Morgan estate without permission, and copies of financial records that hinted at large transfers between Victor and a mysterious third party. She arranged them all into a folder and tucked it under her arm as she walked into the law school library. But this wasn't about school anymore. This was war. Back at Westchester University, the tension on campus had reached a boiling point. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said Vanessa Dale was about to be featured in Forbes as the rising heiress of Morgan Group. Others whispered that Elena had been suspended from the university for lying about her identity. And the university faculty? Silent. Even her closest peers avoided her. Some out of fear, some out of doubt. Elena stopped trying to correct anyone. Her energy was no longer for defending herself. It was for uncovering the truth and preparing for the final blow. At 10 a.m., Elena met with Professor Alan Reeves, a former mentor and expert in media law. I heard what happened, Reeves said, ushering her into his office. And I'm deeply disappointed in how the school handled it. I need your help, Elena said directly. There's someone behind this. Vanessa is being used. The person pulling the strings is Victor Lang. She laid the folder on his desk and opened it. One by one, she walked him through the evidence. Her voice was calm, precise, almost surgical. When she finished, the room was silent. Reeves finally spoke. This is explosive. It's real, she replied. But I need more. I need to prove beyond any doubt that the video was faked and that Vanessa illegally accessed my father's home. Reeves leaned back, nodding slowly. Then you need two things: a forensic audiovisual expert and a cybersecurity analyst. I know people. Elena exhaled. The weight she had been carrying felt just a bit lighter. That evening, she received a call from Noah Lister, a digital forensics investigator based in Brooklyn. He was skeptical at first, but when she mentioned the use of deepfake and potential corporate fraud, his tone changed. Send me everything, he said. If you're right, this isn't just identity theft. It's a takedown attempt of a billion-dollar empire. Elena emailed the video clips, along with metadata that Angela had pulled from Victor's work computer. Within hours, Noah replied. Confirmed. Audio v form mismatches facial motion. Background noise is inconsistent. Splice detected. Deepfake probability, 92%. This was made with a commercial-grade software only available through private license. Someone paid a lot to make this look real. Elena's pulse quickened. This was it. Proof that the video everyone believed was fake. And now she could prove it publicly. Meanwhile, Angela continued digging from inside the company. She discovered that Vanessa had never legally changed her name, had no verified relationship to William Morgan on any public or private record, and had recently deposited $250,000 into a Cayman Islands account. Money linked back to a shell company controlled by Victor Lang. Angela's final email came late at night. Elena, they're planning something at graduation. Victor's pushing for a public statement from your father. But William's been hospitalized, stress-related collapse. Victor's blocking visitors. Elena stared at the screen in horror. Her father was in the hospital, and she hadn't even known? The image of Vanessa walking across the stage, smiling for cameras, claiming a throne that never belonged to her. That was no longer just humiliating. It was theft, and Elena had had enough. 2 days before graduation, Elena filed a formal legal complaint through her lawyer against Vanessa Dale and Victor Lang for identity fraud, defamation, unlawful impersonation, and tampering with digital evidence. She also filed a temporary restraining order, blocking any public statement from being issued under William Morgan's name until he could speak for himself. She served both parties through the university registrar. The documents caused a storm. Vanessa immediately issued a statement through her legal representative, claiming Elena was mentally unstable, obsessed with the Morgan family, and seeking attention before her expulsion. Victor stayed silent, but Elena didn't. She requested, and was granted, permission to speak at the graduation ceremony. It was a long shot, but with Professor Reeves' backing and mounting media attention, the university couldn't ignore her any longer. On the day of graduation, the auditorium was packed. News outlets swarmed the front gates. Students in caps and gowns buzzed with questions. Is Elena Morgan really the heir? Was it all fake? Who's the real daughter? Elena stood backstage, heart pounding, folder in hand. In the crowd, she spotted her mother, Laura, sitting in the second row, her back straight, her eyes unshakable. She nodded. Elena took the stage. The microphone hissed for a moment as she adjusted it. Then silence. "Good afternoon," she began. "My name is Elena Morgan. Some of you may know me as a fellow student, others as a scandal, a ripple of murmurs. I've been called an imposter, a liar, even mentally unstable. But today, I won't ask you to believe me." She opened her folder and displayed a screen behind her, slides carefully prepared. The certified birth certificate, the deepfake analysis report, email trails, bank records, and finally, a recorded video of William Morgan, filmed quietly in the hospital by Angela. In it, William spoke clearly, despite his weakened voice. "Elena Morgan is my daughter. The only one. I kept her hidden to protect her. That was my mistake. But letting someone else take her place? That's something I won't stay silent about." Gasps filled the room. Some students stood. Others sat stunned. Elena closed the folder. Truth doesn't need a shout. It just needs to stand long enough to be seen. She stepped back from the microphone, and for the first time in weeks, she was met with silence. Then applause. As Elena stepped down from the stage, her legs trembled, not from fear, but from the weight finally being lifted. The entire auditorium had fallen silent for a few seconds before erupting into thunderous applause that echoed through the vaulted ceiling of the grand hall. Her mother, Laura, was the first to rise. Her eyes were red but proud. Elena nodded toward her, a silent thank you. Backstage, the atmosphere was completely different. Vanessa Dale sat frozen on a bench, her face pale, hands clutching her purse, wide eyes locked on the screen that had just shown William Morgan's video. Victor Lang, though more composed, couldn't hide the tension in his expression. He stood in a corner, phone in hand, texting furiously. A staff member from the university's legal department approached, tone icy. "Miss Vanessa Dale, we've received a formal order suspending your honorary status at today's graduation. Additionally, the state prosecutor's office has requested your cooperation in an investigation involving identity fraud, evidence tampering, and unauthorized use of private property." Vanessa sprang to her feet. "I didn't do anything. I was just following Victor's instructions." Every head turned toward the man standing beside her. Victor gave a faint, cold smile. "I'm just an assistant. I followed the directives of William Morgan." He already denied all involvement. The legal officer replied flatly. The next day, headlines swept across every major outlet. Heir revealed. True daughter of billionaire exposes imposter in stunning graduation speech. Deepfake conspiracy, offshore accounts, and the attempted takeover of Morgan Group unraveled. Victor Lang suspended, under investigation for fraud and abuse of power. From the hospital, William Morgan released an official video statement on the Morgan Group website. It was 10 minutes long, quiet but resolute. "I take full responsibility for staying silent for too long. In thinking I was protecting Elena, I made her fight alone in a ruthless world. That ends now. Elena Morgan is my daughter, my only daughter, and she will inherit her rightful place in Morgan Group. Not because of blood, but because of character. Morgan Group stocks surged following the statement. Public trust was restored, bolstered by a powerful image of integrity and personal redemption. At the university, the administration called an emergency meeting. Professor Bell, the same professor who had once urged Elena to withdraw from the honors list, publicly admitted fault before the faculty. Sometimes, we let public perception and surface-level evidence cloud our judgment, she said, voice heavy with remorse. But truth doesn't scream, and integrity can't be measured by a surname on paper. Elena received a formal apology from the school, full restoration of her academic honors, and was recognized as the law school's outstanding graduate of the year. Vanessa, after being exposed for using deepfake software, trespassing on private property, and accepting illicit payments, faced multiple legal charges. She left campus quietly. No one saw her off. Victor Lang was suspended immediately from Morgan Group. His assets were frozen, and the Attorney General's office launched a full criminal investigation. While the world outside spun in a frenzy, Elena chose a quiet afternoon to return to the small home in New Rochelle. Her mother was waiting, a cup of tea set on the table. "You know," Laura said, "I used to worry you wouldn't survive in this world. But now I see I was wrong." Elena smiled, squeezing her mother's hand. "I used to think I wasn't strong enough. Turns out, I just needed to be reminded I wasn't alone." Later that evening, her phone buzzed. A message from her father. "I'd like you to come to the office. Not for work. For a meeting at my side, as my rightful heir." Elena looked at the screen, then at her mother. "Should I go?" she asked. Laura smiled softly. "If you want to sit on the throne, make sure you walk up to it on your own. Don't let anyone place you there." On her first day at Morgan Group's headquarters, at the very top of a gleaming skyscraper overlooking New York City, Elena entered not as the daughter of a billionaire, but as someone who had stood up from humiliation, from betrayal, and reclaimed her identity through truth. She walked to her father and took his hand, for the first time with no barrier between them. "I'm sorry," William said quietly, "for letting you grow up in the shadows." Elena smiled. "It's okay, because now I've learned how to step into the light, and I'm not afraid anymore." 1 week after graduation, Elena entered Morgan Group's headquarters not as the heiress, but as someone with something to prove. And the first thing she did upon arriving at the top-floor office was not to open a laptop or request a private corner office. She submitted an internship application. William Morgan was nearly speechless when he saw the formal letter addressed to Human Resources from his own daughter. No special requests, no title, just Elena. At the bottom, and a request to start like any other applicant. "I don't want your position," she told him when he asked. "I want to build my own." William looked at her for a long time, then quietly nodded. On her first day as a legal intern at Morgan Group's in-house counsel division, Elena carried a simple canvas tote, a folder of printed research, and introduced herself to everyone without mention of who she was. She sat in an open workspace among other interns, some from Harvard, some from Yale, all with gleaming resumes and confident strides. No one knew she had been at the center of one of the biggest public identity scandals in recent corporate memory, and she intended to keep it that way. Instead of talking, she chose to prove herself through action. She was the first to arrive and the last to leave. Her legal notes were so well written and logically structured that the department head highlighted them as outstanding within 2 weeks. In meetings, she challenged arguments with sharp, ethical reasoning, never to show off, but to protect what was right. One of the interns, Ryan Torres, asked her directly one afternoon, half in jest, "Where'd you learn to write like that?" "Private tutoring from a Supreme Court judge." Elena only smiled. "I was taught that the truth doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to stand long enough to be seen." Despite her rapid progress, Elena moved carefully. When offered an assistant role to the head of legal affairs, she declined. Instead, she requested a transfer to the Community Outreach Legal Division, a forgotten corner of the company dealing with nonprofit compliance and legal mediation for underfunded areas. There, she started from scratch. Working with overworked lawyers and outdated offices, she listened to voices that most departments ignored. Construction workers cheated out of pay, single mothers evicted from half-finished apartment complexes, elderly residents suffering from air pollution near company land. She realized that the true power of the law wasn't about courtroom victories, but preventing injustice before it began. One day, an email arrived from a small town in Oregon. Residents were pleading with Morgan Group to stop a planned resort development that would bulldoze their ancestral land. The project had already been approved and fast-tracked. Legal teams had closed the file. Elena reopened it. She flew out to Oregon alone. What she found wasn't rage, but despair. People told her about pine forests where their grandparents had hunted, graveyards at risk of destruction, and wooden homes older than the town itself. They didn't scream. They simply asked not to be erased. Elena returned to New York with a thick file and a single decision: request an immediate halt to the project. Board members protested. Investors threatened to pull support. Some called her naive. William Morgan convened a closed-door executive meeting to hear his daughter's rationale. Monday morning, 50th floor boardroom. Elena stood in front of more than 20 executives, all watching her with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. She placed a single folder on the table and began. "We've built an empire," she said. "But if it stands on the suffering of the forgotten, it is no longer a legacy. It's a monument to decay." She didn't use flashy slides. She told stories, real ones. A boy who would lose his only home. A war veteran living in a wooden cabin built by his father. The sadness in the eyes of a woman visiting her husband's grave one last time. And then she ended with a question. "If you were me, would you want your father to look those people in the eyes and say, 'My daughter did the right thing'?" Silence filled the room. William Morgan didn't speak. He only nodded. The project was indefinitely suspended. Instead, Morgan Group established a relocation fund and invested in sustainable development led by local voices, with Elena at the helm. 3 months later, Elena was invited to represent Morgan Group at the International Conference on Business and Social Ethics in Geneva. Media dubbed her the human heir and the silent lawyer. A woman who rarely spoke in public, but every word she did say, people listened to. When she walked on stage in Europe, she didn't carry her father's legacy on her shoulders. She began simply, "I grew up in the shadows to avoid attention. But shadows taught me this. If you want true light, don't step into the spotlight. Become the source of it." The room rose to its feet. Elena never took the throne as a princess. She walked through mud, endured ridicule, and escaped the shadow of her powerful father to earn her place. Not above others, not behind anyone, but right where she was needed the most. And on an early autumn morning, with the sunrise casting gold across New York's skyline, she stood alone on the rooftop of Morgan Group headquarters, staring into the horizon. Not at an ending, but at a beginning, her beginning.